It's Christmas Eve at Nakatomi Plaza with an office party full of debauchery, drinking, and the Mcclanes trying to reconcile their marriage. John, he is a cop. Holly has a ton of 80s hair since it's 88. This makes sense, but suddenly Hans Gruber and a bunch of thugs, they invade to get to a giant safe full of a bunch of savings bonds or something that will net them some $600 million. Hans Gruber says he will kill everyone unless his demands are met, and John Mcclane is the only one who can stop them in Die Hard. And yes, I own the collection. Of course I own the goddamn collection. Die Hard is the perfect goddamn Christmas movie, the ultimate Christmas movie. It's a Nakatomi Christmas on Christmas Eve in 1988. And my fucking goodness, John McTiernan directed one of the best action movies of all time, one of the best Christmas movies of all time. And if John McTiernan sounds familiar, he directed Predator. This movie did have time to bleed. In Predator, they didn't have time to bleed until they bled. That line didn't make a whole lot of sense. The Hunt for Red October, Last Action Hero, Die Hard with a Vengeance. He didn't direct Die Hard 2, Electric Boogaloo. He did direct The Thomas Crown Affair, The 13th Warrior, Rollerball, and Basic. Basic was the last movie that he directed. And if you took a look at The 13th Warrior, Rollerball, and Basic, my fucking goodness, after his career started pretty goddamn good, hasn't ended all that great, but Die Hard, my goodness, if you haven't seen this movie, sorry, there are going to be spoilers here. This movie's over 30 years old. I apologize, but it is, of course, one of the best Christmas movies of all time. Merry fucking Christmas from the Nakatomi Plaza. Hey, the office party was going great. They had record-breaking profits, and they all got their stock options. Wait, no, that's Birdemic. I'm sorry. That was years later, despite the fact special effects looked like they were from the 1940s. Anyway, this is also based on a novel by Roderick Thorpe and written by Jeb Stewart. Jeb just sounds like an Amish guy that would be, writing this thing. He'd, write the police coming in on buggies and horse carriages and everything, and building a barn and setting up a barn to block the terrorists. And what am I on about? I have no idea. Also, Stephen A. D'Souza. Boy, I probably butchered that. Poor D'Souza, if he happens to be watching this, or anybody that's, from his family happens to be watching this. All 5 of them. I don't know. He could come from a massive family tree. Maybe it's a straight family tree with no branches. So, of course, John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, one of the most iconic action heroes of all time. Easily. Now, yes, Bruce Willis has basically gone into, just sleep mode, doing whatever the fuck he feels like doing. Like a movie like Hard Kill, which is absolutely terrible. I still need to watch some of his other offerings that were not very good. But, his wife, played by Bonnie Bedelia, I believe I got that right. Goddamn, she was really fucking hot in this. So, of course, this is, the introduction for basically everybody on a mainstream stage to see Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber. One of the most evil villains, one of the best action movie villains of all time. And, of course, Reginald Vell Johnson, who played Carl in Family Matters. He was a cop there and he was a cop here. Talk about typecasting, if you will. And there were various other people in this. Fucking terrific goddamn movie. I'm not going to go over the entire plot because I basically just did in that horrible, horrible musical intro. I do apologize, heal the world. That's what I was trying to do, and I was fucking screwing it up. I just kept repeating the chorus because I have no musical talent of my own. So anyway, the setting, Nakatomi Plaza. Holly Mcclane, but now Holly Gennaro, changed her last name because she went to take an office job. They're estranged. The McClanes are estranged. McStranged, if you will. That didn't fucking work. John McClane decides to go out there for Christmas to see the kids, see the estranged wife. Turns out that she's kind of with somebody, from the office pool named Ellis. He's been dipping his pen in the company ink. That doesn't last very goddamn long. And they're having an office party. He flies in, and meanwhile, Hans Gruber and co., a whole bunch of Germans whose parents, I understand, were in Austria during the war. That's going to get me a whole lot of hate. But let's keep this on track, like they did. Okay. Anyway, Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman, they arrive, and it's a great operation. They basically are, they got everything set up. They can speak their own language. They can speak multiple languages. They can speak English, so they can fit right in if necessary to talk to the cops and whatever. They take over the plaza, take over the floor level. Really, really beautiful like setting or whatever with a goddamn fountain for no fucking reason. But then again, they had record-breaking profits. Oh, get your stock off. I'm sorry, I already said that. Because they can afford to just put a fountain in there for no goddamn reason. And great, 80s offices and a lot of 80s hair and a lot of shoulder pads. And a blonde has her tits out when they do the invasion. Hooray for 80s tits. But anyway, John is trapped there. And basically, he is the only person that can stop Hans Gruber and co. from breaking into the safe that seems unbreakable, except, mainly the last thing. It's like it's a fail-safe thing. They're not going to be able to get in unless we get like a complete power outage, and then they suddenly do, and oh, ho, 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 they get the Christmas miracle, if you will. So, yeah, this movie, it was great. Fucking great. So many quotable lines. Not even enough that I wrote down. This movie is perfectly written, perfectly acted, great action, bloody. Bruce Willis just being in rare goddamn form. I mean, this is when he was on the rise anyway, but he was doing some great shit here. And Alan Rickman, to think at the age he was, he did pass away, unfortunately, at the age of 69. Don't say it. Nice. Sorry. Rest in peace, Alan Rickman. He had a great goddamn career after this. I mean, you take a look, take a look at his IMDb. He was doing TV stuff, and it's not like, it's not like he was necessarily bad. He just hadn't gotten his break. And then this launched him. And it's actually a shame that this is the only movie he was in. There was no way to bring the villain back except like in Memories in Die Hard with a Vengeance when Jeremy Irons was playing his brother. Die Hard with a Vengeance was also good, but it's not a Christmas movie because it takes place during the summer. So why the hell not, have Alan Rickman be so goddamn evil with a whole bunch of like German guys, including this one blonde guy that, kind of reminded me of Alex Wright. If I could do the dance at all, the dance, but Alex Wright always did the dance with no pants. Achtung, this is not Alex Wright. Everyone was in a panic, and John Mcclane is suddenly having to communicate with police outside, basically, Sergeant Al Powell. And also he has a, limo driver named Argyle that is sitting down in the parking garage and seemingly didn't have any other clients. He just was driving him there and plays a pivotal role a little bit later. And this movie's great. And I will not hear that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie because it is a fucking Christmas movie. You can argue about it in the comments. I'll tell you you're wrong, even though you're entitled to your opinion, but it is a goddamn Christmas movie. I did kind of, after he killed Carl, the big blonde guy, Carl, he killed his brother. And he put him in the elevator shaft. Good news for egg lovers, though he said he painted on him in his blood. Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho. And he gets the cops involved after throwing a terror, one of the German guys, one of the bad guys' dead bodies. I'm choosing my words carefully here. Throwing him out the window onto, Powell's car. And he crashes his car and everything. But then it turns out they have a bond and everything. Oh, you almost killed me, but that's okay. It was all right. We'll just rub some dirt on the car and it'll be fine. It was like one of those giant boat cars where you basically needed to pay for 3 parking spaces, and if you went over a goddamn cliff, it would just spin like this. It'd be and it would just do that. Don't know why it would make the noise like that if it would explode, but it was funny how he had one funny line where he's like driving it really slow. Who's driving this car? Stevie Wonder? Stevie Wonder, by the way, the worst father in the world. He never sees his kids. So, again, Merry Christmas. So, the next time you kill somebody, this guy says he's trying to, that was the guy's body that he just threw. Next time you kill somebody, you don't hesitate. And then he shoots him through the feet and everything. It's just really bloody and really great. And then he finally is talking to Hans, and Hans does not know who he is because he's not able to get his hands on this information here. Huh? Okay, I tried. Anyway, he's like, oh, you want to be a cowboy like John Wayne or be like Marshall Dillon? He's like, oh, and Mcclane, I was always partial to Roy Rogers. And, you think you really could play cowboy? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. And, of course, the iconic phrase that many people use. And I did like welcome to the party, pal. Right when he throws that body on there. Just so many great goddamn lines. there's a guy, Dick Thornburg. Dick is appropriate because he's a real dick, a sleazy reporter. He gets hold of the information and exposes the fact that Holly, even though she's been trying to play this off, is actually the wife of John Mcclane. And Powell ends up basically telling, John, Roy, that was his name. He gave his name Roy to not reveal who he was because Hans could listen in on this. And he says, well, LAPD is here, and if you're smart, you'll know when to, listen, when to shut up, and when to pray. So they send some police in to try and do this invasion. That doesn't work because they get shot up because they got security cameras. This guy Theo, who's a tech expert, with all that 80s computer technology, my fucking goodness, can see all this stuff. And they get shot up, but then they decide to send a vehicle in anyway, and this driver, forgetting that vehicles aren't able to go upstairs very well, it gets stuck. They missile dive this goddamn thing, and that was kind of hilarious. I did like the one line where he's like, don't be impatient, just wound them. And then Mcclane has to do a bunch of desperate stuff to try to save these police, even though the police chief of LA is like all upset at them and everything. Dwayne, he's all upset. Not Rock the Dwayne Johnson. It would have been weird for him to be in this, considering I think he was about 18 years old at this point. And let's see, let's see, what happens basically is what Powell's saying, because he's the only reason, he's the only line of communication. He's killed a few people. Oh, he could be somebody else. And Rickman is like, I'll take this whole thing under advisement. I'll take this thing under advisement as they're blowing up and missiling his car. He's like, he's got these detonators from this earlier kill, and he says, take this under advisement, dickweed, or jerkweed. Good 80s slang. Geronimo, motherfucker, throws the goddamn, actually explosives down the shaft, and it explodes and everything, because we have to have more explosions and everything in this movie, not even the end of the explosion. And then we have Ellis, who comes in, who's a goddamn sleazeball, who's doing coke, because the 80s, it's the 80s, do a lot of coke, and vote for Ronald Reagan, do. And he says, Hans, booby, I'm your white knight, and he pretending he knows John, and that's who he is and everything, because he tells Hans who he is, and he's thinking that John will do the right thing and give himself up. Ellis, by the way, coked out of his goddamn mind, literally and figuratively and absolutely, because, again, the 80s, he ends up getting shot. Because Ellis is kind of an idiot. I mean, he negotiates $1 million deals before breakfast. He can handle Eurotrash. That was his first mistake. And then Theo's working on this stuff, and Hans is talking to him about this these safety measures, and he's like, it's going to take a miracle. It's like, it's Christmas, Theo, it's the time for miracles. Hans then makes demands to the LAPD basically to free a whole bunch of people, and even one of the guys looks at him. I think some people in Quebec. He says off, Mike, I read about them in Time magazine. And then the FBI arrives. I'm Agent Johnson. This is Agent Johnson. No relation, because one's black, one's white. One guy had burns on his face. I mean, I recognize that actor. I hope he's all right. Maybe it's just razor burn. So Hans, checks out the explosions on the, set up on the roof and everything. And then Mcclane catches him, and he pretends to be somebody else or whatever. He pretends to be Bill Clay, a name that he saw in there. And then John knows it's a fucking ruse. He says, got invited to a Christmas party by mistake, Who knew? And then he's like, you think I'm fucking stupid, Hans? And then, you were saying, all these people invade, they shoot out the glass. Shoot the glass. So John, because he has no shoes, because earlier when, this shit happened, he didn't put his shoes on. He was making fists with his toes to calm down after a bad flight, because he was told that. They get, some explosions and stuff like that. Carl, we're back in business, but Carl wants to take care of, of Mcclane. And then he's got, a whole bunch of glass. Mcclane does, he's got dig panes, sheets of glass or pieces of glass out of his foot. And he's talking to Powell about why, he was on desk duty and everything. He says, I shot a kid, it was dark and everything. He had a ray gun that looked, real. He was 13 years old. When you're a rookie, they teach you everything about being a cop except how to live with a mistake. Since then, couldn't draw his gun. That's important for later. And the FBI shows up, And they're gonna, cut the power and everything to, scare everybody, scare the hostages, scare the people inside, scare scare the villains. And he says, "You ask for miracles, Tio, I give you the FBI." So, they cut the power. So they're able to get into the open ball with a whole bunch of, ancient Chinese secrets and a whole bunch of statues and bonds and everything and stock options. Okay, I'm done with that. So, they're going to blow the roof. John tells Powell to find his wife, say, "Tell her I said I'm sorry." "You can tell her that yourself, John." And then John finds the roof is wired to explode. Hans sees this news report by Dick, again, emphasis on Dick Thornburg, and finds out it's John's wife. Oh no, so he takes her hostage, even though he sends everybody else to the roof. And then John fights with Carl, the huge guy, whose brother was killed. Keeps saying, "You motherfucker, will kill you." It's like, your brother squealed when I broke his fucking neck. It's so fucking great. Merry Christmas, everybody, by the way. Broken necks and all that. Who doesn't love to, build, to destroy a goddamn Kraut's neck? Boy, that was goddamn racist. I'm sorry. I watched Inglourious Bastards recently, if you can't tell. So there are, gun copters coming. And then Carl was left hanging. And then John repels from the roof as the roof explodes. We get, one of the copters just totally destroyed. And then, more stuff explodes. More explosions is what we goddamn need in our 80s action movies. This guy, Argyle, the limo driver, sees Theo and was like, wait a second. He pulled a van out of a moving van. It's a moving van inception, if you will. He eases up and then drives and hits him and punches him out and everything. So there we go. Argyle, mobile, hostile. Boy, I couldn't sound more white if I had tried that. And Mcclane's got 2 bullets left. He finally confronts Hans, who has Holly, and there's one other guy left. And so 2 bullets. And he says, "What? All this just to do a robbery?" He's like, "Well, when you steal $600, you can just disappear. When you steal $600 million, they will, find you unless they think you are dead. Put down the gun." So Hans, badly does yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. And it's like, Mcclane's laughing. Holly knows something's up because she could just tell, because he's got his hands like this. He's got a gun taped to his back. And he shoots Hans in, like, I think the shoulder or something like that, and shoots the other guy in the head. Well, he's gone. And Holly kind of, she's got her wrist caught because, got the watch and everything. The watch that she got from Ellis because she was sleeping with him because dipping your pen in the company ink. But that's okay. Let's not even focus on that, John says, because we got to save people. Hans is hanging and everything, and he's like 30 stories up. And they take the watch off, he starts falling. Oh, I hope that's not a hostage. And it just falls. And one of the best villains in action movie history. One of the best villains, I would argue, in like a lot of movie history. Really, really good. But especially action movie history. Fucking terrific. Alan Rickman was a fucking star after this. Great stuff. Just that iconic look of him just realizing, shit, I'm dead. I'm fucked. And then John, Holly, and Powell finally meet. And then it seems like everything's all right. And then Carl somehow got himself down for being hung. And then, like, it looks like he's got this huge gun. It's like a massive gun. John McTiernan loved doing massive guns. That sounded a lot less dirty in my head. And then Carl suddenly, shoots him. He pulls his gun out. And I mean, just, we see this. It's a great, great moment. Great panning, all that. Great camera work. And Thornburg says, "How does it feel?" He gets punched out by Holly. She's like, "Fuck you for ruining my family." Trying to kill me and my family. And Argyle takes him away. It's like, if this is your idea of Christmas, I gotta be here for New Year's. And thus ends one of the best action movies of all time. Obviously, the first Die Hard. This only has the first 4 Die Hards, which, let's be perfectly honest, A Good Day to Die Hard really isn't worth having on Blu-ray, in my personal opinion. But hey, Mary Elizabeth Winstead was in it, and it's always good to see her, no matter what she's in or out of. Anyway, so yes, Die Hard. It's in the books. One of my favorite. I try to watch it every single Christmas. If I can, I at least try to watch enough scenes to just remind myself it's a fucking great Christmas movie. So anyway, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes, it is. But let me know in the comments. And let me know your favorite Die Hard movie and why it's this one. Agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and Merry Christmas, everybody. I'll see you soon.